Dopamine Detox, Biohacking Your Way to Better Focus, Greater Happiness, and Peak Performance. Written by Nick Trenton, narrated by Russell Newton. Every single person reading this book will share one thing in common. They inhabit biological bodies. But there's something else they may or may not possess, and that's the ability to think consciously about their physical well-being. This awareness allows them to take proactive steps to strategize and improve on their life, no matter what kind of body they're working with. Biohacking is broadly defined as any attempt to improve, upgrade, or enhance the biological realities of human life. Originally, biohackers were renowned for DIY experiments with drugs, gene editing, or body modification techniques that fell far outside of conventional science and medicine. In time, however, ordinary people also acquired a taste for embracing their power to use science to improve on what nature endowed them with. In the chapters that follow, we'll be exploring 3 key areas in which the art of biohacking has been practiced, and several everyday ways that you can use these principles to your own advantage. Thankfully, you don't need to go to extremes to make drastic changes to your longevity, mood, mental faculties, self-discipline, and overall vitality. Whether it's a good sleep schedule and the right supplements, or a completely rebooted dopamine system, we'll explore practical and proven techniques for making the best of your life here and now. If you could do one thing to improve your life drastically, what would it be? There are countless books out there on self-discipline, productivity, self-esteem, purposeful living, emotional resilience, and more. But could there be something that underlies all these separate behaviors, attitudes, and mindsets? Well, yes. Maybe the secret ingredient for a life that is disciplined, focused, proactive, and balanced is simple: dopamine. As neuroscientists gain a more sophisticated understanding of the physiological correlates of our mood, our cognition, and our behavior, it becomes clear that any serious change to our lifestyle must include a change to our biology. For a biohacker, the neurochemicals, hormones, and electrical connections in the brain are akin to the programming in a computer. If we can rewrite the code at the back end of our own biology, we can influence the programs we run. Understanding the effects of dopamine on the human experience requires a bit of a perspective shift. Think of yourself as both the machine and the programmer. You're able to consciously control your own experience if you understand the rules of its operation. In layman's terms, the brain is a neurochemical machine that operates according to a variety of hormones and neurotransmitters, which can be thought of as chemical messengers or instructions for the body. In a literal way, they are the concrete expression of your reality. For example, every time you feel love, disappointment, fear, or frustration, there is a precise neurochemical state in your body associated with the experience. It follows then that if we can alter this state, we can work backward and engineer our experience from the bottom up. In fact, in all the chapters that follow, we will inevitably be working with our neurochemistry in one way or another, consciously or unconsciously. One of the primary neurochemicals that operate in the brain is dopamine, which is linked to pleasure, motivation, reward, and so much more. For a long time, dopamine was considered to be a reward chemical. While this is not entirely untrue, we know now that it is more linked to the anticipation of reward and the search for more and better things that are available. Dopamine engages when we face a surprise, an unexpected pleasure that fills us with delight, which fills our brain with dopamine. Unexpected rewards provide us a lot of joy, while expected ones are subject to hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill, i.e., things lose their novelty and shine and stop providing us the same feeling of reward. Imagine this. You discover a new restaurant. It opened near your workplace, and you look forward to trying the food it offers. You go in and have a bite, and it's marvelous. Yet, even if the restaurant continues to provide excellent food on every visit, little by little, it will become less exciting because it becomes routine, and your brain knows what to anticipate every time. There's no novelty, no surprise, and the dopamine associated with this restaurant and its meals drop. Dopamine always has us looking for something more and something novel rather than what we are accustomed to. The dopamine system is a brilliantly evolved mechanism that's responsible for all of mankind's questing, discovery, creation, and resilience. But can you see the problems it could cause as well? The modern world is full of temptations that affect our dopamine. Our biology simply did not evolve in the same socio-cultural environment we've created for ourselves in modern times. If you've ever experienced issues with poor motivation, addiction, bad habits, or procrastination, then you'll know just how hard life is when your dopamine balance is out of whack. Average social media usage across the world is around 145 minutes per day. That means that people spend over 2 hours every day on popular social media websites, and the number can be even higher for many. Social media engages us in a way few other things can and have an impact on our dopamine systems. Social media offers a never-ending stream of content, some of which can prove valuable, funny, and enjoyable. We never know when we'll come upon something great, and that helps keep us engaged. Social media is also, social, which makes it appeal even stronger. We crave approval, connection, and affection, and social media can provide social stimuli that signal recognition or validation in the form of likes, retweets, comments, and so on. Our dopamine systems can essentially be hacked by social media. We never know when to expect a notification or a fun video or something else. This ensures that we are never accustomed to much, and the novelty effect remains. In essence, this is the same trick that casinos use to keep people coming back. We can find the same mechanism in things like lotteries and raffles that allow our brain to anticipate a reward to come, but not a certain one. The engineers of such sites are aware of these processes and design their interfaces specifically to target this weakness in our biochemistry. In other words, there's money to be made from exploiting the brain's reward system, thereby getting people hooked on the cheap and endless reward of the 24/7 news cycle and never-ending content. But it's not just unscrupulous megacorporations that train our brains toward addictive behavior. We can find a similar tactic in play in toxic relationships, when our partner might give us the love and affection we crave, but only sometimes, which keeps it unpredictable. Cognitive psychologists have long understood that this intermittent reward keeps us more engaged than if we had a more consistent stream of positive outcomes. Have you ever met someone who was so used to toxic relationships that they felt bored and uneasy when they found themselves in a happy, healthy one? You can bet they had dysregulated dopamine. Uncertain rewards delivered on a random basis can keep us hooked better than consistent reward programs, and social media designers, game designers, and other professionals know it well. Many aspects of the modern world take advantage of this flaw in our neural programming to keep us hooked against our best interests and disrupt the regular flow of dopamine, making us favor certain activities. Other things can have an impact on the dopamine system in the brain. Drugs are a clear example, as many substances that become addictive hijack the dopamine pathway and make the brain release a lot more dopamine, to the point where other stimuli, like everyday pleasures, are no longer enough to make them active. People who develop substance abuse problems might find themselves unable to find pleasure elsewhere, only through increasingly high doses of their drug. But not all drugs create the same type of addiction, and we can find similar effects from things that are not regulated substances. Sugar and sugary foods can create a similar state. The brain gets used to operating with higher dopamine levels and also requires higher levels of sugar. So without it, we feel weird. We seek sugar, and once we consume it on a regular basis, it can be hard to reduce the amount we consume. Sugar can have a similar effect on the brain as a drug, raising our dopamine levels over time and requiring higher sugar doses to feel the same comfort we used to experience. Extreme thrills can also raise the dopamine level. This can explain the experience of extreme athletes who feel the need to raise the stakes in their activities because their brain gets used to operating with higher levels of dopamine, so lower stakes activities no longer lead to the same thrill. We can find similar effects from risk-taking behaviors, some forms of sexual behaviors, and others which make our brain accustomed to higher levels of dopamine and make the behaviors hard to quit, even if they become disruptive to our normal life or put us at some sort of risk. Higher dopamine levels can make it harder for us to enjoy regular activities. They push us, because of the way our dopamine systems work, to strive for more and increase the intensity and the novelty associated with our day-to-day situations, which is not always feasible, productive, or even safe. Many people find themselves unable to quit social media or casual gaming, even when it stands in the way of their goals and dreams. Instant gratification, the appeal of predicting a reward soon to come, is hard to manage. It's why we fail to follow through on behaviors we know are good for us, and why we keep doing things we know are not in alignment with our values. In other words, we're dopamine junkies. The problem we'll tackle here is the issue of having too much dopamine. But what's the problem with this? Isn't dopamine good? Its functions are more complex than just reward or anticipation. Too much dopamine can make it hard for us to focus, especially on things that do not offer quick and easy stimulation, or those goals we need to work for. We become easily bored and see our attention span decreasing and withering away, so we struggle to engage with things that are longer or more challenging or take time to pay off. High dopamine can contribute to undesirable behaviors like acting on impulse or being more irritable and aggressive or euphoric, which can also make us make poor decisions. Excessively high dopamine levels, like the ones that come after using drugs, can even be associated with dangerous symptoms like hallucinations, although this is not something to worry about on the regular. Too much dopamine can make it harder for us to enjoy things and to center ourselves enough to get things done. So, what can we do to hack our dopamine systems and change the ways in which we operate? Here's how we can hack our dopamine system to reduce our dopamine levels in a healthy way. A dopamine detox is a new strategy that can help you reduce the levels of dopamine your brain is used to. It's a relatively new technique that draws from existing theories and research to help you unplug and cut down on all the activities that are keeping you hooked. If you do such a detox, you'll notice that much of the vocabulary comes from the addiction world, and that's because the underlying mechanisms for classic addictions to things like alcohol or drugs are essentially the same as the ones keeping you hooked to online shopping, Instagram, or doom scrolling on your phone at night when you should be sleeping. One of the most effective biohacks you can orchestrate for yourself is not to develop superhuman memory or bulletproof immunity, but rather to break the mental and psychological change of dopamine tolerance. Your brain's used to receiving dopamine from easy activities or from activities that induce a high level of this substance. We can get the rush in a way that does not require us to work for it, and that puts us off other activities that lead to better results and are overall healthier and more purposeful, but feel too dull when compared to all the tasks that give us instant gratification. Nope, it's not an existential crisis. Your dopamine system's just broken. A dopamine detox is a tool for resetting your brain and allowing you to experience things anew. Now, even though it's called a detox, This doesn't mean that dopamine is a toxic substance or that you can purge it from your brain. It'll still be there. You'll just get a break from the high dopamine levels that can be difficult to manage and that keep you from doing other things. Dopamine is like insulin levels in that both need to be sensitive and operate in a finely tuned optimal range. The goal of dopamine hacking is to make the exquisite neuromechanism work for you. This means creating both a body and a life that are geared toward hard work, appropriate challenge, moderation, self-discipline, and the satisfaction of genuinely earned pleasure. Here are some habits and activities that can give you dopamine, but which are not all that great for you. Using social media, messengers, and your phone, video games and mobile games, watching shows, movies, and consuming content in general, consuming pornography, eating high-sugar foods and snacks or junk food, taking stimulants, coffee, tea, chocolate, some sodas and sugary drinks, drugs, online shopping and browsing without purchasing, consuming online content that features clickbait, outrage, and other manipulative strategies. These activities tend to waste a lot of our time and create higher levels of dopamine. They're like junk food for life. They're great in the moment, but lack spiritual or emotional nutrition and leave you worse off than before. It's worth noting that all rewarding activities can stimulate the release of dopamine, but the ones that offer instant gratification are especially powerful and can be hard to quit. A dopamine detox is meant to reset your brain and allow you time to just be with yourself. It can help you explore what happens when you give up this dopamine rush and instead allow yourself to be bored, to be alone with yourself, and let your thoughts come and go uninterrupted. Build tolerance for craving, dissatisfaction, and having to wait. It may feel like deprivation in the moment, but in fact, you're building your ability to experience more pleasure. It's like the person who hasn't eaten junk food for years. When they taste an ultra-processed deep-fried meal, they don't enjoy it, and they genuinely find more pleasure in foods that are natural, wholesome, and less stimulating. So, how exactly can we use these principles to make concrete changes to our lives? The first thing to get clear on is that a dopamine detox isn't, by definition, a quick fix. It's not going to feel easy, pleasant, or thrilling, but it isn't meant to be. Pay attention to any feelings you have of breezing through a one-day detox and coming out the other end magically transformed with very little effort. That's just the dopamine talking. A one-day detox is the best way to start the process, and what Kirby describes as a hard reset. What will you do during these 24 hours? You will not take part in any activities that stimulate your dopamine, such as the ones described above. You will not use your computer or your phone at all. You will not consume drugs or stimulants. You will not game. And you will just not engage in any activities that offer instant gratification. You're not punishing yourself. You're just removing the existential junk food from your life. If you want to engage in this detox in an approachable way, you can cut down on these activities. The first thing you'll notice is an almost irresistible pull toward your phone, the TV, or that sugary treat. That's okay. Your head may fill with a million reasons why a detox is a stupid idea and why you don't have to do it anymore. That's also okay. You may get depressed, angry, or bored, all normal. Just become aware of all this and stay in the moment. You are rewiring your impulses and perceptions. Be patient. How does it feel to be so out of control or compelled in this way? Does the world really end when you don't instantly get what you want? And really, is the thing you think you needed all that great? In the big hole where your addictive behaviors used to be, you may suddenly feel at a loss. You can instead try spending your time meditating, journaling or writing, walking, reading, sharing with others, talking in person. If you want to make it even more challenging and get a taste of a true reset, cut out all activities except for meditating. You might even try fasting for a day. The more activities you cut out, the harder it will be, but the rewards can be greater as well. You might discover your thoughts and feelings, desires and ideas, and feel how you can be when all these distractions are not in the way. A one-day detox is not going to resolve all ongoing issues, but it can help you give your brain a nudge and an experience that will allow you to feel ready to make bigger and more lasting changes. You will likely feel frustrated or bored. You might reach out for your usual distractions and feel stress because you're depriving yourself of something you're accustomed to. That doesn't feel comfortable. This is a discomfort you can tolerate. You might discover something new and unexpected about yourself and experience something that you usually don't. The discomfort will pass, and you can feel empowered by this success. You do not have to depend on easy sources of dopamine to feel satisfied. You can shift toward more productive things like reflection, creation rather than consumption, and others, setting goals that will motivate you in a deeper and more meaningful way. Writing your book is deeply satisfying. It's not easy, and it takes time, but it offers a more lasting source of pride, meaning, and joy than a YouTube video or a TikTok binge. Working out regularly is not just satisfying, it can also make a huge positive difference for your health, but exercise is often not a source of instant gratification because it can be painful and hard and require effort. The effects will be felt over time, and the long-term gratification is likely to be great if we can hold on for long enough. Consider what habits and goals you could pursue that are not working as well due to your focus on instant gratification. What could you accomplish if you were truly focused, energized, and had enough time? A one-day detox is a first step toward new and better habits, but a one-time detox is unlikely to work without further follow-up. A 3-day detox can be more challenging and can help you recognize the habits you want to keep. It would involve a similar approach to a one-day detox, eliminating all the thrills and stimulants that keep your dopamine levels up, especially things like social media, drugs, including caffeine, and more. Although a 3-day detox might require you to be less stringent, in particular not doing things like fasting. However, after one day, you can consider and reflect the habits you want to bring back to your life in a more mindful way. 3 days can allow you the chance to see how you feel without your social media or coffee for longer, and whether these things are worth reintroducing into your life. Ask yourself whether these things bring value, whether you truly miss them or just miss the satisfaction and gratification they brought. How do you feel in their absence? How focused are you? What happens when you bring them back? And how does your focus shift? A 7-day detox plan. For a 7-day detox plan, you'll pick 1 day per week to do a detox. It's usually better to do it during the weekend, as work might depend on your ability to answer your emails or use your phone and computer. Choose a day every week to perform a reset and disconnect from all the activities that demand your attention. It will help you stay mindful and aware of the instant gratification activities and focus on your goals and ideas. As you do it more, you might discover the type of tasks and activities that best fit your situation and your needs. Some people take a detox to its logical extreme. They fast or they cut contact with others. You don't need to do that unless you feel it would be beneficial. Simply cutting out the most thrilling and extreme experiences for a while should be enough to feel the effects of a detox. The most extreme version that might bring to mind a hermit or an ascetic, however, is also there if you would like the challenge. It confronts you with your own ideas and beliefs in a strong way and might leave you unsettled or uncomfortable. Remember that it's not a good idea to push yourself too far beyond your limits, so you can try building up to this experience by trying something else first. Try the milder version and see how you feel. Cut out more activities for a day. Eventually, you might be ready for a day spent doing nothing but meditating, thinking, and being with yourself. This has been Dopamine Detox, biohacking your way to better focus, greater happiness, and peak performance. Written by Nick Trenton, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2021 by Nick Trenton. Production copyright by Nick Trenton.